special lecture by His Holiness Stoka Maharaj on the special occasion of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Disappearance Day.
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today is the auspicious Disappearance Day of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is one of our most important previous acharyas. Srila Prabhupada, the founder acharya of ISKCON, his guru is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's guru is Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj. And Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj's guru is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is offered obeisances by this pranam mantra that I shall now recite. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. The meaning of this prayer to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this is the prayer we offer to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is the Gaura Shakti, transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is specially empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach Krishna consciousness for the benefit of the whole world. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very, very hard-working. He was continuously engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness in so many different ways. So Srila Prabhupada explains in one particular occasion that the Chaitanya movement was inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about 500 years ago, and after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, so many pseudo-Chaitanyites depreciated the whole thing. They claim to be followers, but they are not strictly following the principles. They are deviating in so many ways. So, the Chaitanya movement in its pure form as it is was restarted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, we should take it that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the origin of the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in order to preach Krishna consciousness, he wrote almost 100 books. Now, for writing books, he did that amidst so many other responsibilities. So Srila Prabhupada says, he was a very responsible officer, a magistrate, and he was a grihastha. He had many children. Altogether, he had 10 children. And he had to take care of his children. He had the office of the magistrate and extra religious work also. He was made the superintendent of the temple of Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri, because the government knew that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a very highly advanced religious person. So whenever there was some religious question, he was consulted. In spite of all these responsibilities, as officer or family man with so many children, he executed his family life very nicely. Or else, Srila Prabhupada says, he could not have produced a child such as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed to the Supreme Lord that to preach your movement, kindly send a nice devotee so that this devotee can preach Krishna consciousness throughout the world. He also served the Supreme Lord in so many ways. That is the beauty. He has written so many books in spite of his cumbersome duties. That is the beauty of his life. He would come from the office in the evening and take his meals and go to bed. That was his program. And he would sleep from 8 to 12 at night, 4 hours, and then get up and write books until morning. So, if you may ask, in spite of all his responsibilities, when did he write? From midnight until morning, he would write books. Every night he would get up in the middle of the night and write books. That's how he wrote over 100 books. Some of them are still being published as of the time when Prabhupada was actually speaking, some 50 years back. All this became possible because he was a sincere and faithful servant of the Supreme Lord. To write so many books with so many responsibilities for an ordinary magistrate is just not possible. But because he was sincere, he got the strength from the Supreme Lord. One does not need to seek strength separate from the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says, if you are sincere, the Supreme Lord will give you sufficient strength. Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought my Guru Maharaj to this world to be his son. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the Guru of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came from the spiritual world in answer to a prayer by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed to Lord Chaitanya that your preaching and teachings have been so much depreciated. It is not in my power to correct them. So he prayed to Lord Chaitanya, and after his prayer, Lord Chaitanya sent Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his son. And he took up the matter very seriously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Now, there are many descriptions of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's spotless Vaishnava character. Spotless Vaishnava character. So, one instance will nicely explain how he was full of so many good qualities. There is a story of one Sir William Duke. You should remember that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was preaching when the country was being ruled by the British. So in 1908, just 3 months before Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur adopted the order of Paramahamsa, one of his sons, who at that time was working at the writers' building in Calcutta, came home one day and informed his father that Sir William Duke, Chief Secretary of Bengal, was in Calcutta. The Thakur had previously worked with this gentleman as a magistrate. The next day, the Thakur made an appointment to meet him and went down to the writers' building. Sir William Duke met him just outside the building and escorted him to his office with folded hands. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was known as Kedarnath Datta in his official circles. So, this William Duke, he said, "My dear Kedarnath," with folded hands, "when you were district magistrate, I wanted to take you out of office. I thought that if there were many men as qualified as you in Bengal, then the English would have to leave." Sir William used to read the judgments that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur passed on his court cases and was amazed at the great wisdom they reflected. On several occasions, he visited Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur at his home and observed how he was absorbed in writing of Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita. At that time, he was writing this book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. The Thakur's wife used to feed this William Duke with a lunch of puri, luchi, and sweets whenever he came. He was astounded at the constant activity of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He then admitted that he had considered the Thakur's extraordinary abilities a threat to British control. But now he begged the Thakur's forgiveness. The English custom was that when a man grows old, he would approach everyone he had ever offended and beg their pardon so that he could pass away peacefully. After hearing Sir William Duke's apology, the Thakur replied, "I considered you to be a good friend and well-wisher all along." The Thakur admitted later to being astonished that this man had wanted to do him harm, but he was so pleased by his repentant attitude that the Thakur gave William Duke all his blessings. See his character. Another description by one Pandit Sarkari Chattopadhyay Siddhanta Bhushan. This Pandit Chattopadhyay was commissioned by Thakur Bhaktivinoda Memorial Committee to write a short biography of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1916. And this Pandit Chattopadhyay has written glowingly of the Vaishnava character of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He explains that Thakur Bhaktivinoda was so charitably disposed that no one ever went away from his home disheartened, and he who once called on him was sure to meet him again with a smiling face. Srila Bhaktivinoda befriended men regardless of their rank, a phenomenon especially visible when he widely preached the holy name. He never bore any grudges, and those who were jealous of him or attempted to impede him in his spiritual mission were in the long run ashamed of their conduct and often came begging his pardon, which he never refused. His sense of universal brotherhood made him the friend of all, and he was always eager for the benefit of all. Whoever contacted him was immeasurably benefited. The Thakur was never proud, and his amiable disposition was a characteristic feature of his life. He never uttered a word that would injure another's feelings. Shastra says, one who is a guru or acharya, his speech is controlled. So here is proof that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's speech was completely controlled. He would never utter a word that would injure another's feelings. He never chastised anyone unless he was perfectly confident he had the right to do so for that person's welfare. On the other hand, whoever received a warning from him always felt himself purified by the experience. This is the touch of the pure devotee. He did not possess the least shadow of vanity. Although he was honored and respected throughout Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, where he traveled and preached extensively. His profound knowledge of philosophy endeared him to the educated, and his devout bhakti made him the friend of both the gentle and the ruffians. As a government official, he was always taken into confidence by the British officials. He was consequently well acquainted with the reasoning behind government decisions. He had witnessed the hard days of the Great Mutiny, and while he was in office, he assisted in quelling many disturbances. The government of Bengal also on more than one occasion wanted to vest him with honors and titles, but he humbly declined the same each time on the ground that such honors would, instead of doing him good, stand against his holy mission. So he was spotless in his character. His daily schedule is amazing. Please hear this carefully. This daily schedule begins at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. he would take rest. He would sleep. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. he would rise, light his oil lamp at 10 p.m. and write books till 4 a.m. 6 hours he would spend writing books. Then from 4 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. he would again take brief rest for half an hour. 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. he would wash his hands and feet and sit down and chant on his beats. That means he would chant on his beats 2.5 hours. 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., half an hour, he would answer all correspondence. 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. he would read various religious and philosophical works, 1 hour. 8:30 to 9:30, another 1 hour, he received visitors if there were any visitors to meet him. Or else, he would walk back and forth on the veranda of his house, contemplating different religious questions and solving them in his mind. 9:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. he would rest briefly, 15 minutes. Then 9:45 a.m. to 9:55 a.m. he would take bath and breakfast. 9:55 a.m. he would leave for court in his carriage wearing the court uniform. 10 a.m. he would reach the court and he would begin his duties as the magistrate. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 3 hours, he would hear between 30 to 50 cases per day. What would take others half an hour, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as magistrate would hear within 5 minutes and write the judgment in 2 minutes. So other officers were astounded at the speed with which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would work. And his judgments were perfect, without any need for any clarification. 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would go home, refresh himself, and return to work exactly at 2 p.m. From 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., he had further court duties, 3 more hours. 5 p.m., he would return home and translate some Sanskrit religious works to Bengali by giving dictation to one's stenographer. Till 7 p.m., 2 hours, he would translate Sanskrit works to Bengali. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., he would take his evening bath and his evening dinner. So this was his schedule, exacting schedule, doing all his duties perfectly and finding maximum time for Krishna conscious preaching and writing. So he always worked with a pocket watch and everything he did was on schedule. Despite his heavy domestic and official responsibilities, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's every moment was embellished with an intense desire to render service to the Lord. now hear about the extraordinary disappearance pastime of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Today is the disappearance day. His disappearance is very, very, very unique. After taking to the renounced order of life, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepted the Babaji renunciation. There are two kinds of renunciation, Babaji renunciation and sannyas, traditional varnashrama sannyas. So he did not accept sannyas, he accepted Babaji renunciation. So after taking to the renounced order of life as a Babaji, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepted some disciples, and one of them, Krishnadas Babaji, continued to serve him as he had in Jagannath Puri. Feeling a strong desire to be absorbed in the spiritual plane, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur shut himself up in Bhakti Bhavan in the year 1910. 1910, he shut himself up so that he could remain uninterruptedly engaged in the divine service of Sri Radha and Krishna. This is a very advanced stage of meditation on Radha Krishna's pastimes by completely cutting off oneself from all external interactions, completely 100%. So, how did he do that? Feigning paralysis before the eyes of common people, he entered into a state of total samadhi or spiritual trance. For common people, it was like he has gone into a state of paralysis, or we might say even like coma. But actually, he was totally absorbed in meditation on the divine pastimes of Radha and Krishna. On June 23rd, 1914, the sun began its southern course. It was the same day that Gadadhar Pandit, the incarnation of Srimati Radharani, who appeared along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had left the world some 450 years before this particular date. Precisely at noon, the Thakur entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord, far beyond the vision of the conditioned souls of this world. 4 years, from 1910 to 1914, he was absorbed in samadhi, total trance, meditating on the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. That's how Babaji, those who take this Babaji renunciation, they gradually cut their eating and sleeping and become more and more absorbed in meditation on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So, on this day, he entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord. We say Nitya Leela Pravishta. That means he quit the mortal body. Of course, we don't say it's a mortal body, it's a spiritual body. But it is still appearing to be behaving like a material body. So he quit the body and entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord in the spiritual world. Then it is explained in his biography, the Thakur's Samadhi ceremony was delayed until the sun began its northern course. At that time, his last remains, his ashes, were taken from the Bhakti Bhavan and brought to his home in Godruma Dvipa. These are two different places in Navadvip Dham itself. In Godruma Dvipa, in his home, they were placed in a silver urn and buried in the midst of huge kirtan and festival held in his honor by his disciples and friends. Hundreds took part and his direct presence was experienced by everyone. Even now we can visit that Samadhi, it's there in Godruma Dvipa. Truly, the Thakur's great stanza composed in glorification of Srila Haridas Thakur applies to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself. What is that stanza? He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread a holy life around. This is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote about Srila Haridas Thakur. And the same is applicable to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai.